Hey everybody, happy Friday. Welcome back to the OneSoccer Roundtable. Jenkins, Platt, Wheeler, and O'Connor Clark with you once again on this Friday. We'll discuss a little Major League Soccer ahead of their kickoff this weekend. But we will start, gentlemen, with the fact that there was an impromptu Football Shirt Friday going on, and I was given about 3 minutes notice to do a quick change, so I had to swap. Where are we? Halifax Wanderers out, throw the Forge one for some support because Ollie and Charlie sat down wearing gorgeous kits, and Wheeler and I didn't get the memo, so we had to do a last-minute change on this one, but what else is new? Speaking of Forge, let's start there. Of course, it's a story all over the Canadian Premier League, and really this Forge side continuing to make some noise in the CONCACAF region. CF Montreal beat their Liga MX opponent, Santos Laguna, the night before. Then it was Forge's turn to try and do the same to set up a Canadian Championship semi-final rematch, what Charlie O'Connor Clark called the Forge Penalty Redemption Tour that we were all hoping to see. Unfortunately, it didn't go that way. A tough start for Forge, conceding just 5 minutes in. David Choinière did get a goal for Forge, a important piece of trivia for Canadian Premier League supporters for all time. But I will start and give the first word to Oliver Platt on this one. We did a Twitter space after. Ollie wanted nothing to do with it, saving his content for today. So I will turn the floor over to you, Ollie, for your thoughts on Forge's remarkable achievement once again last night.
I was writing an article last night, so you were just kind of my background listening.
I wrote the article for you. You were just transcribing what I was saying.
Yeah, pretty much just taking the best stuff, mostly from your listeners rather than you, to be honest. But,
Great
I got a few good ideas. I thought Forge. Look, I think we all thought going into this tie that it had the potential to be very, very difficult. And with Forge obviously not being in season, but also just the gap in quality that you would imagine would be there between them and a team like Cruz Azul. I think we're all wondering what kind of scoreline we could be looking at here. I think a lot of us were probably proven wrong in that regard in terms of how close they were in quality to a team like Cruz Azul. Obviously, the scoreline at the end is one-sided, and the second leg I thought was, clearly Cruz Azul was the superior team on the night and deserved to win. But within that, you saw Forge create chances. You saw them play some football. You saw them, at the end of it, concede 3 of the 4 goals they conceded were from set-piece situations, and the other ones are, a long ranger that Tristan Henry, I think, will want back. So they more than held their own there. And I think they'll probably be even wondering a little bit what might have been had they defended those corners, those free kicks a little bit better. And again, maybe that comes down to a bit of early season rust. But they certainly did themselves proud. I thought their performances were good over 180 minutes. And they showed that Canadian teams can, we're never going to be favorites, not for a long time in ties like this, but we can compete.
JJD TV, our buddy, frequent viewer, loving the MK Dons. So the first compliment goes to Ollie on the day. Charlie, a nice kit yourself as Wheels shakes his head in disgust, and I understand where he's coming from.
8th division.
How much do you think Forge has put the CPL and Canada on the map with this run, Charlie? Does it made a dent, do you think?
It's made a dent for sure. I mean, just think of the fact that Forge FC are, mentioned on Mexican TV this morning. They're in Mexican newspapers today that I've kind of been able to look around a little bit online. They're in there. Forge are a known quantity a little bit more now. And that happened basically in every country they went and played at in the CONCACAF League, right? They would they kind of come into this game or all of these games against CONCACAF teams, and the opponent would be a little bit like, who is this team? They're brand new. They don't, I don't know what they're doing here. And then, in the case of the CONCACAF League, they'd win a lot of those games, and then they're all of a sudden on the map. But to go into the Azteca like that, to only lose 3-1, score a goal to keep them off the score sheet for the second half, I think Forge really kind of impressed a lot. And obviously there is a bit of a sense in Mexico before Forge even got there that they already know that Canadian soccer, Canadian teams are, less of a pushover than they have been in the past. Certainly the national team has kind of done that for them, as well as some of even the MLS teams that have done well against these Liga MX teams recently. But yeah, Forge came in and they did, probably at least as well as anybody could have expected, probably better. And I don't think there's anything to be ashamed with the way that they played in that game. Being, as Ollie said, out of season, rusty, going to altitude at the Azteca and playing 90 minutes as some of those Forge players did, that's really difficult. So I think that they're not going to be particularly ashamed or upset with the way that kind of ended last night.
Gareth, what'd you make of their performance last night?
When you say run, they played 2 games in the round of 16. It's not much of a run. It's 2 games.
Wow, 3 years.
No, but let's be honest. What actually transpired here? Cruz Azul in this game had 2 starters that from the team that played on the weekend. It was a Cruz Azul second team. Now it's sounding like I'm taking something away from Forge. I'm actually not, because it's not the score line, it's not the result, it's not the end product. I don't think that this will make a ripple whatsoever in Mexico. I don't think they care. They expect to win round of 16 games. But from what I saw from Forge was a team that's confident, that's comfortable in different atmospheres. Like, this is just a consistent build of Forge. I don't care about the outside noise. If you're the head coach, you're saying, I'm playing young, inexperienced Canadian players, putting them in difficult positions in essentially what is their preseason. Go out there and see what you can do. And it was the mentality more so than anything else that stood out to me. Like, they just play with a confidence. Like, they don't care. Like, I love that mentality. And it's just completely something that's the opposite of the Canadian football mentality 10 years ago, 5 years ago, right? Like, this is something that's emerged. I think that Smirniotis has done a great job empowering this group. Leaders like Kyle Becker have helped some young players see through difficult moments, but it's not a massive achievement. Like, I feel kind of weird saying that, just trying to make it out something that it actually isn't. This was just another test and a very good response from Forge.
Yeah, it's a piece of history. There's no doubt that it would have made
my dog's crying.
Noise. It would have made a lot more noise if they were to come up with the upset. But I agree with Ollie where he mentions it's not just the 2 matches, it's the run they had. And look, it was an unfavorable draw out of season, and I'm shocked that we saw some of the Forge defenders still able to defend for their lives in the 75th, 80th, and 90th minute to just show how much pride they had wearing that top, and they got a pretty sweet cake out of it by the hotel team in Mexico City. If you haven't seen that, go check it out. Forge's social, the Mexican hotel that they were staying at made him a nice kit with the jersey. I don't think it was this one, but you get what I'm trying to say. Let's move on, talk a little bit of CF Montreal, who will be taking on Cruz Azul in the next round. They advanced, as did Seattle Sounders, who took care of Motagua last night at home at Lumen Fields. Wheeler, between the 2 sides, which MLS club do you think has the best chance of winning CONCACAF Champions League? You've heaped your praise on CF Montreal, but Seattle Sounders are there too. Do you still give the edge to the Quebecois side?
Sounders are a better team. They don't play Cruz Azul. And their next game where Cruz Azul won't mess around and they're going to play a full first team. Seattle Sounders are an excellent team. This is a team where Jordan Morris comes back into it. Ladero, they bring in Rusnak. Like, look at that side. Like, this is a team that I think heading into the season could be the best team in Major League Soccer yet again. So as much as I'm encouraged by what I saw from Montreal, they're deeper, they're better, they're well organized. I think they have the potential of making some noise in the Eastern Conference. I just think Seattle's a better team with a better draw.
Ollie?
Yeah, agreed. Sounders, they're just experienced, right? Like in the knockout football they've played, both in MLS and being in the Champions League before. I think they're easily MLS's strongest candidate to potentially win the trophy. That said, I think Montreal and New England's, are contenders and have a chance for sure. And I said this on our show yesterday. When I look at, the 3 MLS teams versus the 3 Liga MX teams that we've got left in this competition, I don't think MLS has had a better chance to win the trophy than they do this year. I don't think these are top Mexican teams. Cruz Azul is the one you look at where they're a serious side. Pumas, for me, not on the level of teams we've seen in past years like Monterrey, Club America, Tigres, and teams like that. So if it doesn't happen this year, then I think you got to be really disappointed and wondering, obviously the format's going to change, but wondering when it is going to happen.
Charlie, I'll give the next word to you, but I just want to make sure everyone's up to date on the bracket. So the quarterfinal ties are Club Leon and Seattle Sounders. First match in Seattle, second match, the return leg will be in Mexico. Then further down on that side of the bracket, you have Guatemalan side Comunicaciones taking on New York City, who will be playing their home leg in Hartford, Connecticut this time as they continue to bounce around and look for a temporary home to the MLS Cup champs. Then you have Pumas taking on New England Revolution. New England Revolution will be starting their tournament essentially in the quarterfinals after Cavalli had to withdraw due to immigration issues getting American visas in time. First leg at Gillette Stadium, then they go to Mexico for leg 2, and then of course CF Montreal and Cruz Azul. They will be at Estadio Azteca first, so that is Wednesday, March the 9th in Mexico, and then CF Montreal will be hosting La Maquina the following Wednesday at Olympic Stadium. So that's where we stand right now with the bracket. Obviously, as Gareth and Ollie have pointed out, Charlie, it's an easier draw for Seattle Sounders. Would you make it a clean sweep, though, saying that the Sounders had the better shot at winning the trophy here?
Yeah, I think it has to be, not only because they are, as the other guys have said, a better team than Montreal, but yeah, they have a theoretically simpler, more straightforward path to the final. You know, I think I'm looking at the bracket right now. We could see a semifinal between MLS teams if Seattle beat Leon and New York City beat Comunicaciones in that quarterfinal. Who, by the way, that Guatemalan team does not go away. They've surprised a lot of people on the way through the CONCACAF League. But yeah, I think as everybody else said, this is a tournament that an MLS team is probably going to fancy. I think there's a lot of opportunities here. You know, New York could theoretically go to the final, even win the tournament without facing a Mexican team the whole way, which that doesn't seem like something that's happened a lot in the past. But yeah, the way that this is shaping up, it is probably the year that they're going to want. And if an MLS team doesn't win this year, then I think there will be a lot of disappointment.
Well, I'm going to go a step further and make the prediction that a Liga MX team will not win the Champions League this year. There's some real issues in Liga MX. Hearing Javier Hernandez and Carlos Vélez, you know, in their MLS media call, discuss the league. Like, look at the young players that MLS sold off to big European clubs this offseason. Liga MX sold off one player, Pineda, went to Europe. That's it. Like, there's the pipeline's dried up. We've seen it with the national team. They're out of sorts. The MLS financial might of clubs that are very rich, very wealthy, they're investing at a greater level than Liga MX. Like, we're all talking about when that shift. I think the shift's already happened. I think that MLS, by its standard overall, top to bottom, is a better league than Liga MX right now. Santos Laguna, this is a team that is typically right near top of the table. That team is an absolute shambles. They were an embarrassment. I look at that squad. I'm like, where would they be in Major League Soccer? Bottom 5? Probably. Like, I just think that gap is being closed. Canadian soccer on the rise. American soccer, through its incredible investment, absolutely on the rise. What's Mexico right now? Like, we can't, at some point we're going to have to be seeing be talking about a new Mexico rather than the traditional CONCACAF powerhouse that was beating up on underfunded and undersupported programs. That's not the case anymore.
And the irony of that, Wheels, is you still have like the player transfer rumors, Hector Herrera coming back to North America and potentially signing with Houston Dynamo. And there's many the Mexican media that are like, well, that's going to take him out of national team contention. That's going to be terrible for his career. And yet we're seeing this shift where MLS is certainly taking a big step forward, but yet that narrative still exists. It's very interesting. I want to get to a couple of questions. They are coming in through the chat. So wherever you're watching, if you have any questions about anything in the world of soccer, comments on the topics we're discussing, or anything you want to ask our pundits, please throw them in. And I'll begin with a question from Instagram. This is from Star Metro 12, who wants thoughts or opinions on Kaden Chung finally putting pen to paper with Toronto FC. Ollie, first word to you.
Yeah, I think there's obviously going to be an adjustment for a player going from a CPL to MLS, but I think Kaden Chung's just like a really fundamentally sound footballer. You know, not obviously the biggest guy, and that'll be, I think, where the challenges for him is facing some of those, you know, really physical MLS wingers, but he's a good defender. He's good on the ball. He's confident going forwards, combines well with other players. He's just someone who I think has a really nice all-round game. And he's going to get that opportunity to, you know, potentially get some minutes pretty quickly here. Like right now, it looks like TFC's starting right back is going to be Jaquil Marshall-Rutti. He's like, you know, like still a teenager. And we know how promising a teenager he is, and he could take that position and run with it. That's entirely possible. But he's also someone who, you know, I don't think you can really think you can rely on a 17-year-old for 34 games, right? So I think Kaden could get some real opportunities, and then it'll be about what he does with it. But it's obviously great to see him move up, but I think it's also just a really good situation to go into in a rebuilding defense and McNaughton as well, where you have a real chance to stake your claim potentially.
Wheeler, who do you think gets more minutes between the two Pacific graduates, if you will, McNaughton or Chung?
I'll say Lucas McNaughton. Chris Mavinga's durability has rightfully been in question over recent years, when he's available, when he's not. It's a big challenge for him to stay on the field. Is Shane O'Neill the answer? Like, you're going to look, these first few months of the season leading into the summer window, it's a prove it to me time for both McNaughton and Chung, right? Like, prove that you're good enough to make that jump and become a regular in a club that aspires to not just compete, but go on and win MLS Cups. If they're good enough, then they're going to play. I think that Chung will probably be second choice right back to start the season. Will they have an opportunity? Absolutely. He is 23. He's not 20 though. Just keep that in mind. McNaughton's a little bit older, a little bit more experienced at a position where you're going to need great depth. Very thin position for Toronto FC at center back last season. And it'll be a true test, because if either one of those players proves that they're good enough to step in and become a regular, then that shopping list, as this TFC rebuild kind of continues on and moves forward, then maybe it won't be a position of need to address come the summertime. So these first few months are going to be massive for both players. Both of them are going to get looks. Both of them are going to get opportunities in a team where there's obviously positions to be had.
I'll give the final word to Charlie on this one. Then we have several questions pouring into the chat. So Charlie, obviously Canadian Premier League supporters are hoping this works out well. Why do you think it will work out for Kaden?
Yeah, I'm certainly hoping it works out well, because Kaden Chung's been one of my favorite CPLers to watch the last 3 years. And I think it will, as the guy said, he will get his opportunities with this club, absolutely, as will McNaughton. And Kaden Chung has shown his ability to adapt. He's an intelligent footballer, which has, at pretty much every level he's played, made up for maybe not being the fastest or the strongest guy on the pitch. And he can play very well with players that have that quality. I mean, he forms connections very quickly with attacking players, as he did at Pacific all those years, with Marco Bustos and occasionally Josh Hurd or Victor Blasco or whoever was playing on his side. He's a smart player, and I think that he will be pretty hungry to make an impact as soon as he does get that opportunity. Again, yeah, he's a depth signing for this club. He's probably not a particularly high risk signing for this club, who knows that they need that depth at these defensive positions where they really didn't have it last year. So I think he'll be waiting, and he'll be just doing what he can in training to get that opportunity. And I think when he gets it, he can make an impact quite quickly, as he's kind of shown an ability to do at the CPL level. So I think we're all definitely hoping that he can do that. And I think I'm fairly confident that he'll have that opportunity and that ability to at least stake his claim and show that he can, at the very least, be the backup fullback for this team.
Absolutely. And his fellow CPLers from both Pacific and across the league are saying, please succeed, make this easier for me to take a step as well. So all the best to Kaden. We look forward to watching him in red instead of purple this year. I love this from Bone 6000. Hot Wheels, will the Canadian men's national team get out of the group stage at the World Cup? LOL, just kidding.
Ask this every week.
LOL, just kidding. He knows what he's doing, Wheels. I love your rants. You're a beauty. That's from Bone 6000, who also asked a genuine question as well after that one, and I'll get to that next. Will CONCACAF and CONMEBOL ever have a big competition together, Ollie? What do you think? Battle of the Americas.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting idea. I've thought about it before, and I think football is going to go that way, whether in some cases we may not like it, obviously, as we've seen in Europe with the Super League idea, but I think it's inevitable that that's the direction we're going in, is, more competitions, club and country, where we bring, bigger and bigger parts of the world together and create, competitions that are maybe more competitive than the ones we have right now. I think in a lot of ways, and we could spend ages going into this, particularly in Europe, but I think in a lot of ways the existing model and structure of soccer is not really working anymore. So I don't know if that's necessarily the case in terms of these particular competitions or the international competitions on these two continents, but I could certainly see them exploring the idea of doing something to combine, even if it's not every single edition, but on an occasional basis, combining the Gold Cup and the Copa America, as Canada and the United States become more kind of powerhouses in international football. I think there'd be appeal on that on both sides, just as there's been appeal to the for the closer links between Mexico and the United States.
Gareth, what do you think about this idea?
Can it make money?
Exactly.
Mhm.
That's your answer. When it comes to international football, all cards are on the table. I don't think anything's sacred anymore. Once you take away a 32 team World Cup and make it into this 48 team thing that we're going to see in 2026, if nothing's sacred anymore, then why not? If they find enough money, if there's enough money in terms of US, Canada, Mexico to make it lucrative enough, then it'll happen.
Charlie?
Yeah, absolutely. That's pretty much it. I mean, there's a huge, obviously, financial incentive to play in these tournaments. I think as the game continues to become even stronger and stronger, especially in the US and obviously in Canada as well, financially stronger, especially, there is so much incentive for these South American countries, especially, to want to play. I mean, there's a reason that so many of these CONMEBOL countries schedule friendlies in the United States, right? Because they can fill those stadiums, and they have in the past. And I could absolutely see that happening. Both confederations have, for lack of a better word, donated teams to each other's competitions in the past, right? I think Mexico and the US have played in the Copa America, and CONMEBOL teams have played in the Gold Cup. And I think definitely we are sort of on a path to seeing them converge, because it will just make sense the more money there is in soccer, especially in the United States.
Yeah, there's only 10 teams in South America that play in that competition. The bottom teams aren't very good. Like Bolivia never has a chance. If you want to add more teams into the equation, that's fine. Here's the item of caution I kind of throw into the conversation. If we're having a World Cup every 2 years, it's not going to happen. That's the thing here, Ollie, and that's why I wish that FIFA would reach out to me and I can give them my idea. A World Cup every 3 years is the same compromise here, because you have a World Cup 1 year, you have your Confederation tournament the off year, so whether that's Gold Cup, Euros, whatever it is, and then the third year you can have competitions like this or club tournaments. Like a 3-year cycle makes sense if they want to expedite, move things up from 4 years, not 2 years. And I'm completely against the 2-year idea, because I think that everything's like too jam-packed, and we're not going to be able to enjoy other international competitions other than the perpetual, push to qualify for a World Cup. And then boom, the World Cup's here. And what does that say about qualifying? There's 48 teams every 2 years. Like it's nonsense. It's too much. I like these other tournaments, and I hope there's still room for them.
Well, that's something that I think kind of makes sense, is that leave the World Cup as it is every 4 years, even.
3.
And I prefer 4. But then, Europe is the one that doesn't want to play the World Cup every 2 years, right? So just create another competition without Europe, right? And it doesn't have to even just be North America and South America. You can throw in Africa and Asia as well, and have a big, some kind of big tournament every 4 years that is in between the World Cup years. Do that instead. Then everyone gets a tournament that would have appeal, that would make money, that would give these countries that want to play more often competitive games, and Europe can just wait for the normal World Cup every 4 years.
Bone 6000, stirring the pot. Thank you very much for your contribution and for your question.
3000.
Andre 3000 versus Bone 6000 on Monday.
Pay to see that fight.
I'm going to apologize in advance because I see this person ask questions to contribute all the time. I love the engagement. Don't know how to pronounce your name. I'm going to try Rusaki, something to that effect. Rusake. The question, this is going to be one that Ollie's going to enjoy. Everyone's going to enjoy, I believe. Will Ismail Kone secure a regular spot in the CF Montreal squad? Wheels, you had the call for the game where he looked fantastic off the bench. You think he can make himself a regular?
Of course he can. Zahir is going to push for a spot as well. What that means, however, is where does Samuel Piette fit in? He's an actual Canadian men's national team player right now. He's a leader in that team. He's a leader in that group. When Yama's played deeper, that's Piette's role anyways. I wonder if Piette is in the short, long-term plans for CF Montreal. He's such a good player. He deserves to play more. He can play more. So it's not whether Ishmael can make his way into the team. Sure. There's some real depth and there's some really real ability in this team. It's just like, where does Piette fall into the equation? That's what I'm curious about.
Ollie, you certainly liked it. You're talking about every time we see CF Montreal, we're getting the Zahirs and the Kones putting on a show. Do you think he can be a regular?
I do, but it's as Will said. There's like next to Wanyama, one position, and there's at least 4 guys who are going to be competing for that spot, right? Hamdi as well when he comes back from injury. So Pierre, I think there definitely is a question about his long-term future in Montreal. I think he's still going to have a role this season, maybe more situationally in difficult away games, coming off the bench and things like that. But there's a lot of competition for that spot, and if Zuhir and Kone continue to play as they did in those 2 Champions League games, and they're valuable young players who could have big futures, and Montreal are going to want to put them on the field. So they will continue to get chances for sure if they maintain that level.
Charlie, your thoughts?
Yeah, I don't think I have too much to add here other than just Montreal again are that fascinating side this year on quite an upward trajectory. So I think there are going to be a lot of there are going to be opportunities given to all these guys, but I think they are going to want to kind of figure out where they stand with all of these younger players. And again, yeah, Kone certainly has that opportunity, but it is going to be tough. And I would be fascinated to see what happens with Samuel Piette, because he's, still a very good player. And if he is surpassed, then that's obviously, good for Montreal to continue getting better, but the Canadian national team will certainly want him playing regular minutes somewhere.
Great point. I'll come right back to you, Charlie, with this next question from Aaron Ginsberg, who asks, with the Crepeau to TFC rumors looking more and more real and Insigne coming in July, does Jacob Shaffelburg, need a move elsewhere? What do you think about this question from Aaron?
Not yet, I don't think. I don't think he's even established himself enough at TFC. He's obviously played very well there when he has played, but I don't know if he's necessarily been. He certainly wasn't always a nailed-on starter at this club. He can be, I especially before Insigne gets there. I don't think that really there's much rush for Jacob Shaffelburg to be moving anywhere at the moment. I think that he's comfortable at TFC. He's obviously made tremendous strides in his development there. It's a good environment for him. So I don't think that I'd be in any particular hurry for him to move on, because I think he is still going to benefit from playing in that environment with some very talented players.
Ollie, what do you think?
He's going to start the season as the starting left back. Let's see what happens. Like, a lot can happen in 6 months, right? Who knows what kind of performance he's going to have turned in by the time Crepeau, if he does sign, ends up in Toronto, right? So you got to let that play out and see how it goes.
Crepeau's also 35.
Exactly.
in Major League Soccer, that's not an equation where you're saying, okay, you're going to play every match. Like, TFC is in an interesting spot because they have a number of young players coming through that need to prove themselves and are fighting for minutes. And they're going to have a bunch of established players that can go on and help the team potentially win something of significance over the short term. So it's a very exciting project. I like Shaffelburg. I rate him. At the end of last season, wasn't he like their best player? If he wasn't their best player, he's in their top 3. He was great. Like, he found that a little bit extra composure on the ball. His distribution was always an issue. His decision making, he was much better. He spoke to me about how the game kind of slowed down for him, and just like kind of Neo in the Matrix. Like, it's just so much easier to read the game and make good decisions that way. Now the next challenge is the fact that now he's playing a different position. And it's about whether and how that transition will work. So a move elsewhere? No, he's just switched positions. Let's see how he can do at that role first before we want to see him anywhere else. And if you want to see him move somewhere else, where's he going to get an opportunity like he's getting one right now for Toronto FC? I just don't see a better spot for a player like him right now.
Sorry, Charlie,
I also just wanted to jump in. I don't think that Crepeau coming in would really make all that much of an impact on Shaffelburg at all. I know that he has been a left back in his career, but as Will said, he's 35. I don't think he's going to be playing all that much fullback. He's certainly not going to be playing any wing back for this club, I think, at the moment. He's mostly been a center back in the past couple of years. So I don't think that has a huge impact on Shaffelburg in particular at all.
And that deal's not done from what I know. I'm not saying that it won't happen, but if he does sign and if he does end up in Toronto, he lands in July. Well, who's going to play these positions from now until the middle of the summer? Like, it's just, I don't know. Shaffelburg also was part of the Canadian men's national team this World Cup qualifying window, or not this past window, but this campaign. Like, he's been in the national team. So I think he's in a good spot, a good place right now.
Dr. Wheeler prescribing patience on Shaffelburg. No rush to see him move forward. Another question. This one specifically asked to Hot Wheels, as he has been called out by Connor Powell, who says, "Great show, guys. Question for Hot Wheels. Newcastle fam here. I predict Pogba and Lingard will sign for Newcastle on a free.
Ooh.
Thoughts?"
First, shout out to, who is it, Colin?
Connor Powell.
Connor. Shout out to Connor. I love Newcastle. Geordie Shore, one of my favorite shows. You can call me Gaz, after my favorite character on Geordie Shore. Way better than Jersey Shore, by the way. I think that Lingard makes a whole lot of sense. Pogba, I think that Pogba's either going to go to Real Madrid or PSG. I just don't think that he's going to. If he leaves United, I can't see him staying in England. But Lingard makes a lot of sense. I would proceed with caution if I was Newcastle. They had a busy January transfer window. I think that was out of desperation rather than some methodical long-term play here. They brought in a lot of good, not great players. But now that you're the richest club of the world, if you can get through and survive this campaign, you got to go for some big fish. I think they got the right manager. I really like Eddie Howe. I think they do have some players. St. Maximum can play in my team any day of the week. I do think that there's some balance in the team, but if you're the richest team in the world, then you got to go out and bring in top talent. Lingard's a cut below for me, but I think for now he would be an upgrade. But we'll see. I mean, it certainly makes me nervous being a United supporter, having another team that's willing to splash the cash in the Premier League. So I'll go with Lingard. Yes. Pogba. No.
Thank you, Connor, for the question for Hot Wheels. We still have about half an hour left in the show, everybody, so get your comments and questions in, especially if you're just joining us. These Friday roundtables are specifically designed to be as interactive as possible, and we really appreciate everyone who gets their questions in. We try to get to as many of them as we can. Next one from Caveman. Interesting. Should the Whitecaps bring in a veteran goalkeeper to support and mentor Thomas Hassel? Ben Foster from Watford is interested in Major League Soccer, and Watford is probably being relegated, says Caveman. Charlie, what do you think? Should the Caps bring in a veteran to try and mentor Thomas Hassel?
Ben Foster.
I don't know about Ben Foster, but I think they probably do need another goalkeeper. I think we were all pretty shocked at Maxime Crepeau leaving the club. I guess we still don't really know exactly what the situation was there, but he was a very good goalkeeper there and a proven one in MLS. And now he's in LA, and Thomas Hassel, who obviously we know has talent and has played for Vancouver before, he's unproven at this level, I think. And he's young. And I think that especially in that position, just throwing players to the wolves like that in an MLS season is a little bit of a gamble, especially when the backup at the moment, I think as it stands, is Isaac Boehmer, who was a second keeper in the CPL last year on loan.
Island Bomber.
Vancouver.
Attaboy, Platt. Attaboy.
That's why I want him back at Pacific.
Love the Bomber.
Yeah.
Well, when Otley's going to jump in like that and just drop a Platt bomb like that one, I guess I got to give him a question because he's clearly...
Do you think... just a second. Don't you think that James Pantemis could be an option?
I don't disagree with that at all.
Or even Sirwa.
Let them build... Or Sirwa, like that, keep a Canadian goalkeeper, make him, bring him out. Pantemis is good enough. I don't think it's a lock that Hassel is going to be able to make that transition as a number one. I don't think it's that straightforward. But CM Montreal has 4 goalkeepers right now. And it looks like Breza is going to be the number one. Pantemis to Vancouver, I can see it happen.
Pantemis is older than I think all of the other prospects there. So if somebody is going to move on, I think permanently, he's probably the odd man out, right?
Yeah, like if Ben Foster, if you're bringing over a player like that, and I think he's far past it, he's going to play. I think you want your Canadian or younger goalkeepers to play, but you want to make sure that they're not being just thrown to the wolves. So I think that Pantemis Hassel could be a nice Canadian 1-2 there.
Yeah.
All right. I was going to go to a question from John, but this one just came up in our chat feed from Jack. So John, I see your question. We'll get to it next, but first I will pull this one up from Jack Below. I have a question. Why is there so much hype around Marcelo Flores for Canada when Lucas Diaz already committed to Canada and faces men every week? I can see the smile from Wheels. I think he agrees with Jack, so I'll let him comment first.
No, Flores is going to be a fantastic player, but I think it's just the nature of sports fans. You always want something new, and fresh. And I think his dad, Marcelo Flores' father, has done a great job keeping his son in the headlines and the news. I think that everything's being plotted accordingly to drum up interest and to kind of build the hype. He's going to be a fantastic player. Diaz, meanwhile, hasn't played his senior game for Canada. Until he does, he's not fully committed to playing here either. And we'll see if he's good enough to take that. I think that Flores is probably a better project or prospect for the Canadian men's national team, but this is no slam dunk. But I prefer if this conversation went to the back burner till after Canada qualifies. Look, we have plenty to look forward to in an upcoming window where Canada is going to do something historic. Flores talk can wait for me. It's not going to happen between now and March. If it does, it will happen in the build up to the World Cup. So save that talk for the summer. That would be my recommendation.
All right. So now the question from John. With the rumors starting to fly around Jonathan David, where do you think he's most likely to end up next season at this point? And I want to add to this. I'd love for you guys to give me, as it currently stands, knowing so much can change, where you think he's going, and B, where you would like him to go if you were his agent and could just handpick a destination. Ollie, I love the face where you're pensive and you're not ready to answer, so I'm going to make you answer first.
What? I mean, where do I think he's going? I have no idea. I don't think anyone knows yet, right? There's going to be several clubs interested in him. There's a few that I think make sense, but I think they make sense because they're also the ones I like because I think they make sense, right? If that makes sense.
I like them because I can imagine it. Yes.
The two that stand out to me, one is Liverpool. Although with
Jota
and Diaz, I don't know if they'd still be in the market for another forwards.
Really hard.
I do just think that he makes a lot of sense with Firmino getting older in that number 9 position for Liverpool. I think he's the kind of player who could succeed there. And I would like to see him go to Liverpool because Liverpool don't get signings wrong very often, particularly attackers. They usually excel pretty quickly. So that would obviously be a great situation for
Shaqiri. Sorry.
Okay. We're going back to Shaqiri. We're really reaching. And then the other one is Inter, who play that front two, that 3-5-2 system, right? That I think he could just be a great fit for as well.
Yeah.
So those are the two that stand out to me, and I'd be pretty happy with either one.
Gareth, anything you want to add where you want to
Inter. I've on OneSoccer today for I think months. I've been saying that Inter has to be the favorite club. I think that it suits his playing style better than the Premier League as well. I think that you saw against Chelsea, if he's going to be playing teams like that physical nature, I think that he might need a few more years to get used to it. I think he can play in the Premier League, and clubs like Arsenal will be licking their chops, Newcastle probably, but I think that Inter would be the best place. I think that system is key. I think that the people around Jonathan David have done a nice job tracking his career and getting him into positions where he can succeed. I think is under a manager, under a system that plays two strikers up top. I think that suits him better. And Inter would be the place for me.
I love how we have a new resident S disturber in the chat, Bone 6000, winding up wheels and now saying David hasn't scored in 2 months. He's headed for the Iraq 2nd division.
It's up and coming league.
That's right. Charlie, where would you like to see him? Do you agree that Inter or Liverpool seem like the best fits for him?
Liverpool.
I am 100% on board with Inter. I'd love to see him in Serie A. I think that would be a fantastic level for him. And again, he's got kind of the technical ability and the skill set to really succeed there. The only other league that I guess we haven't talked about at all is the Bundesliga. I don't know if maybe there are clubs there that are I saw somebody in the chat saying Dortmund. I mean, if they do sell Erling Haaland, then they've got a job up for grabs, I suppose.
Well, they're good. They're going after the young lad from Salzburg, Jamie.
Yeah, probably
to fill his boots. So I don't think that there's a spot there.
Yeah, so I think Inter just does feel like the right one. It's just almost too perfect for it to be the easy solution. If I can say one that I really don't want him to go to, it's definitely Arsenal.
Sorry,
Arsenal are on the rise. They're back.
Ollie, your commitment to Arsenal will never not impress
When
me.
I say they're back, I mean they're back to finishing 4th.
Like,
I'm not over exaggerating.
Watching that Champions League game between
pinnacle.
Inter and Liverpool was so painful because like Eden Dzeko, come on. Like I felt like if they had
with Dzeko.
I felt that if they had a David playing alongside a Lautaro Martinez, man, they would have won that
How old
game.
is he?
Jack, it was like watching someone run through quicksand. It was painful to watch.
Like a Union Deportivo OneSoccer FC beer league game running through quicksand. It's not the best fit for him because I think he's destined for better things. But for my closet's sake, Jonathan David to Venezia, please. I will have one of every single kit every single year that he's there.
Not going to.
No way. There's too many U.S. players at Venezia.
That's a fair point. From one preposterous take from yours truly to another crazy rumor that I don't think has much traction, but Scorpio Canuck is asking anyways. Gareth Wheeler, is Milan Borjan coming to Toronto FC, or is that MLS move not happening?
No. My understanding is that he got into it with the manager and things were a little bit
Spicy.
rough for a period of time, but this is Eastern European football we're talking about. That's what it's about. And Borjan's not someone that will back down. I think that he's basically the Canadian king of Serbia and he has no reason to move on. They love him in the club. His family's established there. I don't think he's looking to make a move to Major League Soccer. I'm not saying it will never happen, a move like that, but is anything short-term or imminent? I just don't see it.
All right. This one I'm going to give to Ollie from Jefferson Steelflex. I truly hope that is your real name. That is my absolute favorite commenter's name of all time. Jefferson Steelflex. Hello, everyone.
I hope that's a real last name. That is a great handle.
I never felt so insecure.
Like
any question you want to ask Jefferson, just get him in. You're going to come up every single time. Any upcoming Canadian men's national team prospects you're excited to see at the rumored youth camp in March, Ollie? What do you have for Jefferson Steelflex?
This is one for Wheels. I need like 5 minutes to think about this at least. I think there was some that was scheduled for the January camp, right, Wheels?
Yeah, they were. Colecio, Luca Colecio was supposed to come. Bilal Halbouni was supposed to come. I don't have my list in front of me, but a number of young players were supposed to be included in that. I know they're preparing for the under-20 camp. To be honest with you, with clubs back in season, I just don't know who will be available, who will be made available, and who won't. So it's a difficult question to ask, but I think there's a couple European-based players that the under-20s would first like to take a look at and see if they, kind of fit the mix, gauge their interest, see what they're all about, and then you can go on and move them to the senior national team if there's a fit.
If we're talking specifically U20s, one thing I'm interested in on that front is seeing how many CPLers are in there. There's some good young players in the CPL, still teenagers who are obviously playing first team football. So that'll be one to watch. I think if you're looking at someone like Lowell Wright or some of the other young players around the league.
Charlie, you're nodding along. Anything you want to add?
Yeah, that's pretty much it. I think, again, because it's in just kind of after the start of the MLS season, I think there's going to be a lot of sort of those kinds of maybe bigger names that we would have heard of more often that probably won't be there. But there probably are some CPL names that could be involved. I mean, even players that maybe were there last year. I think Sean Ray is only like 19 still. He was pretty good and on loan from CF Montreal. But again, I think I'd have to actually see who's going to be available for this camp before we really know what to expect from it.
Yeah, and look at previous names who've been in youth, within the youth national team system before. And Ray is one of them. Like there's a group of players who played in the, the under 17, FIFA World Cup that some of them, might be of interest. They want to keep players in the program. That's kind of the player pathway that they put forward. But I'll say this, I heard rumors over the course of the winter that January camp, there was teams reluctant to release their players for it anyways, even players that would play for the senior men's national team. So look, I know that COVID's kind of been, we're in a different spot right now, but still seasons have started. MLS season has started. So I don't think these clubs, just when you're starting to get things going, are going to be all that willing to just say, oh yeah, take them for a camp and bring them out of their setup. I don't think that some of the MLS teams will be very keen about that.
All right. Thank you, Senor Steelflex and everyone for prompting that question. Caveman again asked, this is an interesting one that I don't think we'd be able to answer in the previous window
Captain
because things
Caveman!
were very different. But with the way things are going, Canada, if they get their result on the road, it's guaranteed. If not, they could do it. That means there's at least one more match for Maxime Crepeau. Charlie O'Connor Clark, do you see Max getting any time this window?
If Milan Borjan is healthy, then I think maybe not really. I think that Borian is probably... there's no real reason to take the gloves away from him at this time. They're still going to be trying to win all 3 of those games in that window, even if they qualify after the first game. And John Herdman isn't really the kind of guy to rotate for the sake of rotation, I think. So I don't know. It's possible. It's possible. And certainly depending on Borian's health and fitness at that point of the season, he'll be kind of deeper into his club season. So maybe the stamina is not the same as earlier in the year, but I don't really see them really doing that at this World Cup qualifying window.
Pretty remarkable how far we've come from the beginning of the qualifying campaign when a lot of people were saying, give Crepeau a shot. And perhaps if he started and succeeded in the match where Borian really dominated and made it his goal, we might be talking about a lot more of a different goalkeeping situation. But it's been a redemption tour, hasn't it, for Milan Borjan wheels? Like, Crepeau's going to have his time. Don't get any of us wrong, but I think a lot of supporters of this program who have been with him for a while are just elated to see Borian succeed, clean up some of those sloppy errors. His game's not perfect, but he has been one of the biggest protagonists of this run, hasn't he?
Yeah, it kind of what COC was saying right there. Like, Canada's not taking their foot off the pedal. Like, there might be naturally some rotation, 3-game windows. We know what that looks like. Herdman's used a lot of players, but there's stated goals here. Mm-hmm. You know, to go undefeated, first team to qualify, you know, get into the top 30 in the FIFA rankings. Like, there's stated goals that are still there to be achieved. Like, these have been documented. They've been put to the players from before the World Cup qualifying campaign even started. So they're going to see out this process. So it's not just like, hey, you get a game, you get a game, you get a game.
Yeah.
I don't see it playing out like that. But I mean, Crepeau's already played some big games and had some big moments in this window. So it's not far-fetched to think, you know what, the Panama match, it might be his time to come into the team. I don't think that's far-fetched to say that.
And I think too, and we've mentioned this several times on these kinds of programs, OneSoccer Today of all sorts, just once Canada's next window finishes and they're going to Qatar, it's not like we're not going to see friendlies or other competitions between now and Qatar. So Crepeau's going to have his time. A lot of players are going to have their time, but I think right now, get you as many points as you can, finish the historic run off as high as you can. And if you think Borian's your guy, then continue to give Borian the gloves. A quick comment, this one from Danielle Dubuc, who says, I liked and found very cute that Oliver Platt mentioned yesterday that CCL stands for Chouanière Champions League.
Cute. Is that the first time you've ever been called cute, Ollie?
Wheels.
Wow. Possibly.
Look, they've been fantastic. And this one, I've never heard of this guy before. So I'm just going to pull it up. Someone named Kyle Hall, doesn't ring any bells. At Oliver, instead of at Platt Ollie, at Oliver, is Canadian men's national team legend Theo Corbeanu destined to lead the MK Dons to promotion?
You got to say, my friend Kyle, that it's looking more and more like destiny, isn't it? You know, as I mentioned earlier on the show, the informed team in the country in 2022, big game against Bolton, who are also in great form tomorrow. By the way, I'm sure you'll all be tuning into that one. Theo's actually been on the bench the past couple of games, which has been interesting because he's playing well, but you know you can't mess with a winning team. So we'll see if he starts tomorrow.
Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter because Theo's going to be back at Wolves next year. Their third play. I'll say this. This is a level of my interest of League One. Is if Sunderland doesn't get promotion this season, like isn't that a little bit heartbreaking? Like it's
too many good teams around them.
Too many good like who Oxford,
very strong division.
Plymouth, like
Wigan,
come
Rotherham,
on here.
Ipswich.
Sheffield Wednesday, like what are we talking about here? What year is this? So, if they gain promotion, Theo won't even be there, or will unlikely. It's unlikely he'll be there.
If we gain promotion, he might want a year in the championship. He might love the many
I'm just gonna let
attractions
this
of Milton
breathe as
Keynes
long as
so much
possible.
that you decide to come back.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Danielle,
We'll go to
and thank
Slough
you,
and play with
Kyle
Brent
Hall.
and Gareth.
Appreciate the questions. We got about 10 minutes left. We have one on deck that I'm going to get to next. But if you have any more, final 10 minutes, get your questions and comments in. But this one might even eat up the remaining 10 minutes because I know there's some strong opinions here. And it's a question from Instagram. Pho for me, or faux for me if it's not supposed to be pho, the food. On Instagram, is Major League Soccer at a point where the salary cap should be removed? Tam Gam, it's all so complicated. Can't we let them spend freely by now? Who wants this one first? I know you all have a thought on it. Nobody's jumping up, so I'm going to give it to Charlie.
Oh no. Okay. Yeah, I tried to make my face look as thoughtless as possible, but I don't know.
I'll take over. I was just trying to give someone else a chance.
Wheels can get us started.
There has been way too much Wheeler on this episode. Oh man. Okay. Yes, it needs to be removed. I hate GAM. I hate TAM with a passion because no one knows what it means. All of these professional sports league in North America, they get so cute with their rules. Like, unless you're like the 1% of sports fans to understand how the salary cap works in the NHL or the NFL or the NBA, it's far too complicated. Most people have lives. And they don't have time to go on and understand all these nuances. Make it simple. Build your team. The owners here in North America are some of the richest owners in football. Okay? These aren't small clubs. And yes, they might not be raking in the cash that some of these other clubs are making through marketing initiatives, ticket sales, television contracts, and that sort of thing. But we're growing it. How do you grow it? Better players, better teams. I think it's time to loosen that salary cap. If there's a soft cap in play, that's fine. But all these rules that are trying to predetermine a club's ambition, I absolutely can't stand it. I think it did serve a purpose during some very lean years for Major League Soccer. There's like $400-500 million expansion fees going on in this league right now. So what are we talking about here? Like, we're at a completely different place, different level. Down with GAM, down with TAM.
That's the thing, is that you don't need to get rid of the salary cap completely. And I don't think you even need to raise it beyond the levels that teams are spending right now. Just get rid of all the stupid rules within it. Like, I think we've gone beyond the point now where we need allocation money and discovery lists and all of this stuff. Like Will said, it's ridiculous. So, just do what every other North American league does. Yes, have a salary cap, but make it a simple, ceiling, right? That all teams can spend to. I think there's reasons they don't do that, which are that they want to incentivize teams to sign DPs rather than to spread money kind of evenly across their roster. And they want those big stars in the league. But I think it's past time to simplify it big time.
And this has nothing to do with financial fair play. Like, that's being put in place so these clubs where there's promotion and relegation don't overexpose themselves, which endangers the livelihood of club football within that town, within that city. We have cities across North America lining up wanting to be a part of the MLS party. Like, we in North America, there's no outrage when a team moves from one city to another city, or at least to the point that you would see in European football. Like, we're in a far different place here in North America. North American sports are so different. And like, again, a soft cap, okay. But all of these little mechanisms that only like complete soccer nerds understand or care about, it's not how you get more people to the party, right? It's not like, come over to my house, we're going to deal in 1980s classical or, the 1600s classical music. That we're going to have a trivia night at my house. No, that's played to such a specific crowd. It's time to expand, welcome more people to the dance, and make it easy to consume.
The only thing I will add to that, Wheels, is that the Columbus crew entered the chat when you said there's not much outrage when teams want to move markets. But aside from that, I'm with you 100%. This is another good one from Caveman.
They fought for their team and it stayed.
They did.
They won.
And they won. And it's a lovely story. I'm very proud of them. From Caveman, not to get too far ahead of ourselves, and I love this question, but who would you like to see get Canada's first World Cup goal? Mine's Atiba. Gareth, who would you like to see get Canada's first goal in Qatar?
Well, Alphonso Davies.
Yeah.
Team is a great answer, but he's the face of Canadian football. Like, again, hardcore Canadian soccer fans love Atiba Hutchinson for so many reasons. The casual, they all know who Alphonso Davies is. It's about welcoming more people to the part. Like, Davies scores the first goal for Canada at the World Cup. Like, the interest is already going to be here. If Davies scores the first goal, just skyrockets. Alphonso Davies is the face of Canadian soccer right now.
I think I will vote for Milan Borjan in a world where that can happen, because I think it would be the most ludicrous and wonderfully Canadian thing of all time. Welcome to Qatar. Our goalkeeper scored our first goal. Charlie, who would you like to see get it?
It's anybody. I would like to see Canada score a goal at a World Cup.
Yeah. Well done.
I mean, I think Wheels is right in saying Davies for the right reasons, because I mean, obviously, I think when Canada enters a World Cup game already, there's a lot of hype around his team. But yeah, if Alphonso Davies scores that highlight goal in Canada's first game of the World Cup, everybody's on board. If he does like what he did against Panama at a World Cup, the whole country is watching every Canadian game, maybe forever. So I understand it. But yeah, there's a nice story with whoever it could be. I know any player could score the first goal for Canada, and it would be really cool and a nice story, and we'd all be very happy for them. Like, at the end of the day, I don't particularly care who scores for Canada as long as somebody does.
Just want to, before I get to Ollie, and I'll give him a moment, I just want to show the chat agreeing with me. Masood, Milan Borjan should score the first goal. That would be legendary. Scorpio, Canuck, Borian free kick. Ollie, who do you want to see get it?
I have nothing to add. I have nothing to add to the other guys, but if Milan Borjan scores the first goal, it means Canada's losing and he's come for a corner at the end, right? So I agree that would be a great moment, but I don't want to see Canada losing in the last minute of their first World Cup game. So I'm going to say Davies as well.
Desert sandstorm, goalkeeper's out towards half for whatever reason. Played back to Borian. Bang, back of the net. Okay, so we have one more, a predetermined sort of rapid fire way to end the show, and then the last call for questions, because we only got about 3 minutes left. So time for some predictions. Ollie, we know how much you love bold predictions. So this is Major League Soccer in honor of it kicking off this weekend. Ollie first. The winner of the MLS Golden Boot will be blank.
You just want quick fire?
Quick fire.
I got Rui Diaz. One comment is that I think Castellanos could be like just totally dominant in the league this season. I think he's that good, but I don't think he'll stay for this full season. So I've gone Rui Diaz.
Charlie.
I literally have Rui Diaz written down right here. That's why I made that noise. I have nothing to add. Yeah, I mean, there are other options. Could Shaqiri score a bunch of goals? Maybe. But he'll probably play more as a 10. I think it's Rui Diaz.
Gareth?
Chicharito.
Got to stay healthy.
I like that. That's true. He does have to stay healthy, but I do like that one. Okay, best playmaker in Major League Soccer will be blank. Gareth.
Can you start with someone else?
Charlie.
I'm going to go with Brian Rodriguez at LAFC.
Ooh.
The young Uruguayan player just came back from Spain.
Oliver Platt, Danielle's looking for a cute answer to this too.
Don't put that pressure on me. It's Carlos Hill. As long as Carlos Hill is in the league, he is the answer to this question. Shaqiri could be up there as well, though.
How about this? I'm going to throw a new name into the hat here. My boy Georgi Mihailovic, 16 assists last season, and honestly, like he looked awesome on Wednesday against Santos Laguna. 16 assists, that's a lot. Like, and I think that he's going to have a better team around him this year.
I will say Georgie's goal was the first time in a long time that I've been watching any sporting event that my reaction was just an expletive that I can't repeat on this show. That's how impressive it was. Best rookie in Major League Soccer will be who, Charlie?
So tough.
I don't know what counts as a rookie in MLS, to be honest. Like, I think the award is
under 22. Under 22 player of the year is the award now.
Right. So there are a lot of options. Does Paxton Aronson count in Philadelphia?
Snub.
Dejan Buchanan snub. That's right. Yeah, I'll go with Aronson in Philadelphia.
Ollie?
I got Jesus Ferreira just because I think he's going to be the starting number 9 for Dallas, so the opportunity is there for him to score double-digit goals and play for the US as well. So I'll take him.
That was mine too.
Okay, well then I will circle back to Gareth for our final bold prediction. Best defender in Major League Soccer for 2022 will be
Miles Robinson.
Okay. Charlie.
I want to say Carlos Salcedo, but I'll go with yeah. No, you know what? I'll stick with it. Carlos Salcedo.
Very good. Ollie, final word, the final bold prediction.
I already picked this on yesterday's show. Alistair Johnston, Defender of the Year.
Yes.
Book it.
I love it. I love it. All right, everybody. Thank you very much for your engagement today. We really appreciate these Friday shows are fantastic. More fantastic names in the chat next Friday. More people calling Oliver Platt cute in the chat next Friday. It's a little bit of everything. It's been fantastic. I will say too, if you missed any of our OneSoccer Todays this week, including yesterday's show where we did a bit more of a deep dive on the women's national team in the Arnold Clark Cup, all available on our YouTube channel, so make sure you're subscribing to that, liking the videos as well, and follow us on all the socials that you wish. Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, you name it. It's there at OneSoccer and the new onesoccer.ca. So we'll be taking a break for the weekend, enjoying some Major League Soccer, and as a result, have plenty to talk about on Wednesday or on Monday. Excuse me. That's when weeks start, on Monday. Charlie, thank you. We appreciate you coming on these Fridays.
COC! Yeah, you know me!
Have a great weekend, everybody.